Okay, we're going to talk Knicks Cavs, and the person that I want to talk to most about this series is my guy Fred Katz. You can read him on The Athletic. He is our Knicks beat writer. He's also on the Tampering podcast. He's also just one of my favorite people. Fred, welcome to the show.
I think you've already established yourself as somebody who needs to know more people, but thank you.
Fred, so Cavs Knicks is probably one of the most anticipated first round matchups in the East. How would you compare this Knicks team to the 2021 team that made the playoffs as the 4 seed and lost to Atlanta?
It's unquestionably better. I wrote a preview of this series that went up on Thursday morning on the site, and my lead into the preview is that the days of the Gilbert Arenas Wizards and the Joe Johnson Hawks being perpetually stuck in the 4-5 matchup are over. Like, this is the reason this is an anticipated series, is because these are actually good teams. The Knicks are an actually good team. They were third in offensive efficiency. That team a couple of years ago, the East was worse. That team won 41 games in a 72-game season. They were 24th in offensive efficiency. Their point guard was Elfrid Payton, who is now on the Fort Wayne Mad Ants. That was their starting point guard, to be clear, not just a point guard on the roster. This one has Jalen Brunson. Randall is better than ever. Quickly is so much better than he was. He was a rookie then. Now he is possibly going to win Sixth Man of the Year. Grimes wasn't even on that team. Now he's the guy who's going to be guarding Donovan Mitchell. And this Cavs team, meanwhile, you look at the peripherals on it, and this is not your normal 4 seed, right? Not at all. Like,
right,
second in the league in net rating, first in the league in defense. They're one of only 3 teams, along with Philadelphia and Boston, that was top 10 in both offense and defense. And that can also often be an indicator over, okay, these are the real contenders, right? Like, these are really good teams. They've got 4 guys, Cleveland does, on that roster who have either been all-stars over the last 2 years in Garland, Mitchell, Allen, or are just like definitely going to be an all-star many, many, many times in Evan Mobley. So, I mean, that there's a whole ton of talent on that roster. I think the Knicks have really good, especially young talent. They're both well coached. Like, I think it's going to be a fun, especially if Randall is healthy. I think it's going to be a fun series. I really do. I think it's going to be good basketball.
I wanted to ask you about Randall because he sprained his ankle at the end of the season, missed the last 5 games. You reported that he's gone through parts of practice, but he hasn't gone through contact drills yet. We won't know his official status for game 1 until Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. If he missed a game or even is limited in his return, how do you think the Knicks will try to adjust?
Well, I could see them trying to play faster. They would likely have Obi Toppin in the starting lineup over Randall. That's who started those 5 games to close the season. Toppin is kind of a transition dynamo. That's his thing. He's going to want to leak out. He's, I really think, one of the only off-ball forwards in the entire league who actually affects the pace of a game when he goes in it. Normally, the guys who are speeding up a game are ball handlers, right? They're not guys who are just going to be off the ball and big men, but Obi really does that. He loves to get out and run, and he's really good in transition. I think they would try to do that. I see them going small a lot more too, and that is going to be a really interesting challenge because, as we all know, Cleveland is massive. They've got those 2 7-footers and Allen and Mobley down low. And I think it's possible we're going to have to see Josh Hart guarding Evan Mobley for meaningful moments in this series. You know, when Randall was out over the last 5 games, you know, there were times when we saw Hart having to play significant minutes at the 4. We saw, especially when the game still mattered, you know, those last 3 games, the Knicks had already been locked into 5. So I kind of write everything that happened in those games off as just like, we can't analyze that to project anything that will happen in a playoff series. But you look at the way Tibbs was using Obi earlier, and he was using him kind of how he used Elfrid Payton on that team 2 years ago, or how he used Keith Bogans back in the day in Chicago, where Obi was starting. He was playing his first rotation for 7-8 minutes in the odd numbered quarters, the first and third, and then he wasn't coming back in. And I could see them going real small. I could see in sparse moments, if Mobley starts to kill them, I could see Jericho Sims all of a sudden coming off the bench and having to guard him. Tibbs has played Jericho Sims and Isaiah Hartenstein together before, even though those guys are both centers. I think it works defensively. Sims has really great foot speed. Offensively is where you're going to run into stuff because you're going to have spacing problems there. But he's done that during the regular season when Toppin was hurt earlier this year for about 15 games. He was running running Sims and Hartenstein together with the bench unit. So I think they have some things that they're going to go to. But, I think they'd much rather have Julius Randle.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt. The Cavs are known for their defense, finishing the season number 1 in defense according to Cleaning the Glass. The Knicks, however, boast their second-ranked offense per this season per Cleaning the Glass. What are the key matchups on that end where New York needs to succeed in order to win this series?
So to me, this answer is my favorite part of the series because it gives you something for everyone. Because the casual fans are going to want to see Jalen Brunson versus Donovan Mitchell. And the really nerdy diehards who only care about the X's and O's and they watch the games on mute because the broadcasters just don't know enough. They want to see Brunson versus Donovan Mitchell. So I think that is going to be so much fun to watch. The last time that the Knicks played in Cleveland was at the end of March. It was only 2 weeks ago. And there's, again, not a ton to take away from that game. The Knicks were missing Randall. Cleveland was missing Jared Allen and Isaac Okoro. I imagine Okoro is going to be the primary defender on Brunson during a lot of this series. But you watch the fourth quarter of that game. Brunson ended up with 48 points in a win in that game. Mitchell ended up with 42 points. They were both absolutely phenomenal in that game.
Yep.
And the end of that game was the two of them trying to maneuver switches onto each other. Sometimes Brunson trying to get Garland. But the two of them trying to maneuver switches onto each other. And just two great players just battling it out. Two great scorers, great facilitators trying to battle it out. And what is more fun in a playoff series, close and late, than two great players actually going at each other? So often we see, KD and Giannis playing a playoff series, but Giannis is like guarding the weak side and KD's not hunting Giannis. So KD's never actually going up against Giannis. But I think these guys are going to try to go up against each other. And they're both fantastic players. And that will be, I think, incredibly fun from just a narrative standpoint, from the Donovan Mitchell Knicks stuff, from the Donovan Mitchell's a great player, Brunson's a great player, and it's fun to see great players go up against each other standpoint. And it's going to be super fun from an X's and O's standpoint because both those guys are phenomenal going one-on-one. They're great in pick and rolls. They've both had phenomenal seasons. They're both tremendously efficient. And it's going to be really interesting to see how the other teams try to combat that. Okay, how do the Cavaliers try to combat the Knicks running screen after screen at Okoro, trying to get him off of Brunson? How do the Knicks combat? Let's say they're putting the Cavs are putting Brunson in the back ends of pick and rolls. How are the Knicks going to try to combat that? We saw them try to trap Donovan Mitchell at times during late in that Cleveland game. But what Mitchell did? He just got rid of the basketball really quickly and made the right play and got open shots for his teammates. Well, his teammates make him pay. That is going to be, I just think that's going to be so much fun. As somebody who just loves the sport, I just think that's going to be really fun to watch for everybody. And it's one of the reasons why I'm really excited for this series. It's fun to watch great basketball players do awesome basketball things in basketball moments that matter.
Well, and your answer kind of leads into my next question, because I want to ask you about the other side of the ball, where the Knicks defense is ranked 19th on the season, according to Cleaning the Glass, which would be the lowest since Tibbs arrived in New York. Over the course of the season, what have been the major areas of concern for the Knicks on defense? And are the Cavs well set up to exploit those weaknesses?
Yeah, so something I think is going to be super interesting is how the Knicks do guarding in transition. A lot of their defensive problems throughout the year, especially this was more earlier in the year than lately, have stemmed from their ability to guard in transition. Now, the Knicks are really good at not turning the ball over. They were 5th in the league in turnover rate. The Cavs, in turn, are really good at forcing turnovers. 4th in the league in opponents' turnover rate in terms of forcing turnovers. That's going to be completely in opposition to each other, obviously. Someone's going to win that battle. If the Cavs win that battle and they're able to get steals, get deflections, get blocks, get out running, okay, are the Knicks going to be able to match up with them? Are the Knicks going to talk in transition? Being vocal in transition is not always something they do. Emmanuel Quickley is vocal in transition. Josh Hart is vocal in transition, but there are times where they get mismatched. The Cavs, meanwhile, average a whole ton of points off of turnovers too. They're like great at running after turnovers. They were top 5 in the league in points per possession after getting turnovers. The Knicks, leading up to the trade deadline, were 29th in defense after committing turnovers. So again, those two are in opposition. Since the trade deadline, when they acquired Josh Hart, who talks, they're 4th. So which version of the Knicks are we going to get? I think Mitchell Robinson's been a lot better in transition. I think Hart's been a big difference for them. I think Grimes is really learning on the go. It's only his second year. Honestly, I think Randall missing 5 games probably helps those numbers too. He's one of the bigger transition defense culprits for sure. So I think there are a lot of things about that'll be really interesting to see if those hold up. But like, can the Knicks guard the Cavs after they turn it over? And will they turn it over a lot is going to be really interesting. And it's not just about the fast break, because what the Cavs are built offensively is to be able to kill you after you get a mismatch, right? If you get a small against Jared Allen, he's going to dunk on you. If you get a small, and he's not going to like post you up, but he's going to carve out space down low. They're going to throw him the ball when he's under the basket and he's going to dunk, right? Same thing with Evan Mobley, or maybe Mobley's going to pass over somebody who's 6'2" because he's a really underrated passer. Mitchell is just going to go to town on like a big man if he picks him up. Same thing with Garland. So you want to pick up the right guys too. That is going to be super interesting to see how that goes. It's another great matchup within the matchup, I think.
So RJ Barrett has had an up and down 4th season. He's somewhat of a forgotten man on this Knicks roster. In fact, I don't even think we've talked about him at all in this preview. And yet he's still averaging 19, 5, and 3 with 5 free throws per game. Only 18 other players in the NBA hit that criteria. He is someone that the Knicks will probably have to turn to if Randall can't go, certainly. But what are your expectations for him in this series? And then just like holistically, where is he as far as like a core piece of the future for the Knicks?
Well, he kind of has to be a core piece because they did just give him a rookie extension that kicks him for next year, 4 years, $107 million. And unless, of course, they end up using him as kind of the main guy in a star trade or something like that this summer, I mean, I don't see them like actively trying to move on from him. He was obviously discussed in the Donovan Mitchell discussions last year. So if a many-time All-Star becomes available, Knicks are going to get in on that. And in that case, basically anybody is up for grabs. But I don't see them like actively trying to get off of RJ Barrett. That said, I don't know if the Knicks have to use RJ. If he's feeling it, then he's going to play. What's going to be really interesting to see as well is how the Knicks responds when Cleveland tries to trap Jalen Brunson. Brunson almost never fights the double team. When he gets double teamed, he takes a step or two back. He's not great at finding the roll man in those scenarios because he's just not huge. So what the Knicks will do is they'll send another guy up the opposite end of the court and Brunson will dump it off to them and that guy will go. And that guy will get kind of a 4-on-3. So that could be a wing, it could be a forward. It's someone who's a ball handler. And that guy will get a mini 4-on-3 in the break when they trap. That guy might often be RJ, especially if Julius Randle isn't playing. The question is going to be, how is he going to respond in those situations? Because one thing that he has struggled with, and very openly, by the way, he talks about it, is the ability to make reads when he's going at the basket. Okay, 3 guys collapsed in on me. I've noticed this guy on the wing. I can kick to him for a wide open 3. Or, okay, the big stepped up on me. I had the lob to Mitchell Robinson right open. Those sorts of things. He's struggled to make those reads, and sometimes he ends up just kind of throwing up shots out of triple teams that he doesn't need to do. And he's a little slow, maybe even a little predetermined on those plays. I think how he handles those situations will be really important to determine his playing time in this series. I also think, look, he shot 31% from 3 this year. He's shot 25% from 3 over the last 2.5 months.
Yeah.
I don't think it's any secret that Cleveland is going to be sagging off of him. The only thing I wonder about is to what degree. And I think the answer to that question is kind of up to RJ Barrett. If he knocks down his threes enough to make him think about it, guys will drift closer to him. And if it gets in his head and he gets really cold and he starts missing, like sometimes he does, it's going to be difficult to play him. And I shouldn't say it's going to be difficult to play him. It's going to be difficult to play him 30 minutes it might be difficult to play him 25. And if Josh Hart is balling out, the difference between RJ and the other guys who are options there, Quickly, Hart, Grimes, is all three of those guys, have more faith defensively from Tom Thibodeau. And two of them are superior 3-point shooters. Hart's not really a 3-point shooter, but he is a very active cutter, super quick decision maker, quick twitch, going to the rim, passer, all that kind of stuff. Whereas RJ is more like, if he's not giving you those points, then he has to find other ways to contribute. So I'm very curious to see how it goes with RJ. If he gets really hot, he could be the guy who swings the series. Like, he is really strong and he's good going downhill and he's good getting to the line and he's very good at getting to the rim when he wants to get to the rim. And if he's able to do that and he's able to convert there and able to get to the line, he could be the guy who makes the difference for the Knicks, no question. But if he struggles when the Cavs are sagging off, or if he's not active, if he doesn't respond in some way, some activity, cutting, driving, setting screens, whatever, just making those shots, then I could see this being a problematic series for him.
Okay, Fred, it's time to make your pick. What's your pick for this Cavs-Knicks series?
It's hard to say without knowing the health of Randall. I just don't see a way the Knicks can win if he's not somewhere close to the usual version of himself. I certainly don't see a way the Knicks can win if he doesn't play at all. I think the talent disparity is too much. I'm going to go Cavs in 7. I think these are both really good teams. But I think Cleveland's got 4 of the 6 best players in the series. And if Randall isn't play, or if Randall is too hobbled to look like himself, there's a chance Cleveland has 4 of the 5 best players in this series with just, that's a lot for Jalen Brunson, his shoulder. It really is. So I'm going to say Cleveland, who I think is just like one of the best two-way teams in the league. Argument that's a top 5 team in the NBA.
Go read Fred at The Athletic. You can listen to him on the Tampering Podcast, which is on this very podcast you're listening to. Drops every Tuesday. Fred, thanks so much for joining us.